This recording is on chapter 7 and it's called Route and Formulations. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about within this chapter: routes and formulations, oral formulation, sublingual and buccal formulations, rectal formulation, parenteral routes, intravenous formulations, intramuscular formulations, subcutaneous formulations, intradermal formulations, ophthalmic formulations, intranasal formulations, inhalation formulations, dermal formulations, vaginal formulations. And then we'll go back and do some review and look at thinking it through. So what are some of the things that you should be able to learn in this particular chapter? You should be able to distinguish between enteral and parenteral routes of administration. You should also know the common dosage form used in enteral and parenteral routes of administration. And you should be able to understand the unique characteristic or limitation of dosage form used in enteral and parenteral route of information. Let's look at thinking it through, and at the end we will go back and try to answer some of these questions. There are different routes of administration, and there are different drug formulations, but not all drug formulations are manufactured for all routes of administration. For example, many neonatal solutions are dosed orally, but an oral solution of a given drug may not be available from the manufacturer. Suppose you are a technician for an afternoon shift in a hospital's special care nursery and are responsible for drawing up neonatal solution doses. You need to prepare oral caffeine citrate for baby girl Stone. There is no manufacturer or solution of caffeine citrate, but there is an IV solution product in the IV room. As you read through the chapter, think about the following questions. 1. Can you substitute an intravenous solution for an oral solution? If you were to give an intravenous solution of caffeine citrate orally, would you expect the caffeine absorption to be different than if you use an oral solution? If the situation were reversed and you had only the oral version of a product, but needed to give it intravenously, what should you do? Should you do this? Okay, so these are some of the questions that you should think about as you're going forth in this chapter. Okay, let's look at routes and formulations. So the way in which the body absorbs and distributes drugs varies with the route of administration and the dosage form used. We should also note that the route of administration are classified by being enteral and parenteral, and we are going to go into the definition of what that means. Any route other than the oral, sublingual, buccal, or rectal is considered a parenteral route. Well, that's the definition of a parenteral route. Therefore, an enteral route includes sublingual, buccal, rectal, and oral administration of a particular drug. For each round of administration, there are various formulations used to deliver the drug via that route. Let's look at some definitions before we continue. Many times you have different type of effect. When you talk about a local effect, for example, this occurs when the drug activity is at the site of administration. For example, if the drug is being given to the eye, to the ear, to the nose, to the skin, and that's the route of initial contact with the body, what is a local effect? Then once the drug is absorbed into the system, you have what's called a systemic effect. This occurs when a drug is introduced into the circulatory system from the route of administration. It could be eyes, ears, nose, skin, vein, and talk about those different routes of administration, and carried by the blood to the site of activity. And so you should be familiar with both what is the difference between a local effect and a systemic effect. Route and formulations. Drugs are contained in dosage units called formulation or dosage form. A route of administration is a way of getting a drug onto or into the body. And again, there are two major routes, well, only two routes of administration. Enteral is a thing that involves the alimentary tract, and we have talked about those 4 different categories, such as oral, buccal, sublingual, and rectal. Those all fall under the classification of an enteral administration or route of administration for a particular drug. And then anything outside of that is called parenteral. Routes next to, routes beside the enteral routes. And again, each of those particular routes have different type of formulations that allow for it to be effective through those particular type of passage into the body. So what are the different types of enteral formulations, and also what are some of the dosage forms that you can find associated with those particular routes of information? Let's look first at the enteral formulations. You have oral, and of course some of the dosage forms that you find associated with the oral route of administration includes tablets, capsules, bulk powders, solutions, suspensions, elixirs, syrup, and emulsions. And then you can have what's called a buccal enteral route. A buccal is found between the teeth and the cheek. You see that in relationship to tablets and solutions. You can have sublingual enteral route, which is under the tongue. Lozenges, tablets, it can be the type of dosage form associated with a sublingual administration. And then with a rectal enteral route can include solutions, ointment, and suppository. Okay, so be familiar with that. Now let's look at the parenteral formulations and what type of dosage forms are associated with that. So I may jump around here. Let's look at intraocular, for example. Solutions, suspensions, ointments, and inserts can be associated with intraocular. When we talk about intraocular, it's associated with the eye. Another parenteral route is intranasal, which you see right over here. And things that may be associated with intranasal parenteral route include solutions, suspensions, ointments, and gel. Another one that is also an intranasal is into the nose. Inhalation, which is into the mouth to go to the lungs. You may have different type of dosage form. Some of the dosage form that is associated with inhalation include solutions, aerosols, powders. With these 3 up here, intravenous, intramuscular, intradermal, the dosage form that is associated with these type of parenteral routes includes solutions, suspensions, colloids, and emulsions. And then, oh yes, allow me to define this: intravenous, into the vein, intramuscular, into the muscle, and intradermal, into the skin. And then you have the dermal. And with the dermal, you have the parenteral route. And the dosage forms that are associated with the parenteral route include solutions, textures, colloidins, liniments, suspensions, ointments, creams, and gels. Okay? And you should be familiar with those particular type of formulations. All right, let's move on and talk about oral formulations. Some of the things that you should be familiar with is that oral formulation must pass to the alimentary canal and first get to the stomach. That can be a problem, and that's why many drugs have to possibly be given from a different route than through the mouth, because the stomach is very acidic with a pH of 1 to 2. Certain drugs are degraded, are changed into a less effective form if it goes through the stomach, and then many are destroyed by the stomach acid. So some of the things that occur with drugs that are going through the stomach is destruction of that particular drug. Therefore, the formulation must be such that it's able to resist that particular environment. Also note that drug administration in liquid formulation reach the general circulation faster than do drugs in solid dosage form. Why? It's because you must have disintegration of the solid form in comparison to the liquid form, which is not necessary. And when we talk about disintegration, it's the breakdown of the solid into smaller parts. And then you also, with solid dosage forms, have to have dissolutions. And dissolutions means that a solid drug must dissolve in solution within the stomach in order for it to be effective. Okay, let's take a look at this particular picture here. This is just part of the alimentary canal, and I will use my cursor to point out different parts of the GI tract. Here is the stomach with a pH of 1 to 2. It then leads to the small intestine with a pH of 5 to 7. And then the large intestines you see here with a pH of 7 to 8. So the large intestine is alkaline in comparison, more alkaline in comparison to the small intestines and the stomach. Okay. Also, I want you to know, we talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of anatomy. The supporting digestive organs, such as the pancreas, which is located right here, the gallbladder, which produces bile, which is allow for emulsification of food, and then the liver, which produces the bile that is stored within the gallbladder, as she has stated, and many other components that allows for digestion to occur. And this is just an example of gastrointestinal pH. Okay, let's keep on looking at oral formulation, and let's look at some definitions. Okay, so when we talk about the pH, is the following. The pH scale measures the acidity or the opposite alkalinity of a substance. 7 is the neutral midpoint of the scale. Values below, which represents acidity, that's 7 or less, and above, which represents alkalinity, going from 7 to 14. All right. We talked about disintegration. Again, disintegration and dissolution is one reason why a liquid dosage form passes through the system much faster or is absorbed much quicker than a solid form, because in many cases a solid form must undergo disintegration or breaking apart of the tablet into smaller pieces, and dissolution when those particular smaller pieces are disintegrated tablet dissolve into solution. Another thing that it should be noted about oral formulation is the inactive ingredient. So many times when we look at this particular pill, and let's use aspirin as our example, we'll use that throughout, is that the pill has a lot of things that are added to it. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in the next section.